Okay, one more thing. So, I am absolutely ready to begin here, and I think we are in good shape. Oh, so many familiar faces. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Philip. Hey, JD. Super nice to see you. Oh, in room two, I gotta just move some windows out the way. Steiner, good morning. Daniel Allison, the man in the house, the not so average man, is here. Harry, Mr. Krishnan, good morning. Alrighty, give me 2 seconds. Alrighty. So here is where I want to start this morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, the show is about to start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, and we're ready. Super nice. Thank you. Sorry, I've been chatting with you guys for ages, and I only realized now that the microphone was on mute. Anyway, amateur hour here. But it is wonderful to see you guys. As I was saying, most people should be in Zoom room 2, except for last minute entries that should have all gone to Zoom room 1. So from that perspective, I think we're all ready to go. If you feel that is an error, then let me know and I can move you. But Philip, good morning. Yes, you are absolutely in the right spot. You are correct. Oh, Mr. Krishnan, good morning. Super nice to see you here. Daniel Allison is in the house. Oh, there's an old flame. How's that? Wonderful to see you. Wonderful to see you. Really nice. You made my day. So I want to get cracking real quickly with this image. This is where I'm starting this morning. Because if you think of that, this is obviously Elon. And clearly the most ambitious builder of our era, right? Sitting absolutely alone in the wreckage of his own rocket. So this is the guy who promised humans on Mars, crouching in the debris of his latest attempt to get there. Now that is 2008, okay? And I think that is what work actually looks like. Okay, people see the listing, they see the $1 trillion price ticket on it, but this is what actually building things look like. Okay, now if you're like me, you've had many moments like this. I had one this morning. This is life of an entrepreneur. Okay, and that is what work looks like because we fail. Right now, I get it. Most of you don't blow up rockets, but you have your own version, right, of the same picture. And sometimes it's the deal that died, or the launch that didn't land, or the podcast that you launched that didn't fly. I mean, I literally have them every week. I've had shows that I've set up, spent a fortune on, and like 3 people showed up. You know what I mean? And it's okay, because that's how we iterate, right? But these things really do take their pain on you, right? And sometimes we have a decade that you can't even think about without your jaw tightening, right? Now, I've spent probably 35 years in this business, and that's what the work looks like. You build something, it fails, you sit in the wreckage, you figure out what it cost you, you build it again, less broken than last time, right? Now, we have a name for it here internally, and it's called CANE. Constant and never-ending improvement, also known as screwing up, learning what it costs, and not making the same mistake more than, 2 or 3 times, okay? On Fridays, I call it TGIF. Thank God I failed. But a better version of it is to really think about it as weaponizing your scar tissue. And that's one of 2 things I know how to do after 35 years of failing, falling down, and getting up again. And the other thing I know a lot about, is attracting capital. So when I say attracting capital, what I mean is clients, investors, and partners. That's essentially the fuel that makes the work go. And about 10 years ago, I stopped managing other people's money. And since then, I've spent almost every working day with founders, builders, entrepreneurs, people who have a dream who needed my help in getting it done. And I tell you, it has been an absolute privilege and some of the most challenging moments. So what I'm about to walk you through has helped build multiple 7, 8, 9-figure businesses. I have stopped keeping tabs on all of it, but it is a roster of different industries, different versions, but all of it at its core is an entrepreneur who wanted to build something. Because most of us really have a version of this wreckage, sitting somewhere in our living room or on our kitchen table or in a boardroom somewhere, right? And there's actually a faster way to recover and build a rocket that takes off. So what I want to leave you with today is like a really clear path to see where we've gotten stuck and why it's actually not your fault, and how the solution is actually easier than you think when you spend half an hour with me working on your business, on your dream, rather than being in it by yourself all the time. And what nobody will tell you in this information industry that we're in right now, they won't tell you this because their entire model depends on you not knowing it. And here is kind of my first breakthrough, is that you're living in this trinket economy. Basically, if you think of it, the internet, right, has made information free. The business education industry kept selling it to you anyway. Buy another course, buy another thing, buy another framework, buy a binder, buy a course, $100,000 masterminds. I own that. I've had those masterminds. But they've all become trinkets because what's inside of them is no longer scarce. And it's actually getting worse for them and better for you because execution is going the same way. So raise your hands if you're using AI at all. Let's just take a little run through. Okay. Let me just go through Zoom 2 and scroll a little. 1 second. I got 6 windows here. Yeah, so basically everybody, literally everybody. And I think the person that didn't raise their hand is sleeping or lying about stuff, because pretty much everyone is using AI, right? So if you think of the way that information went, so AI that made information free is making execution also almost free. Funnels, copy, content, code, all cheap, getting cheaper every month. Every day there's some new mega prompt and a new model offering you a free shortcut to 1 million followers and $1 billion net worth, okay? And all of it is bullshit. I know because I've been on those. When they say on LinkedIn, comment Claude and I'll send you the stuff. I have imported hundreds, if not thousands of these things. And I basically have my workers analyze them and see if there's anything useful in there. And mostly they're like little trinkets, okay? Because we live in absolutely extraordinary and unique times. Information is free. As I said, you can find anything, anywhere, from anyone you want for free. And now your ability to execute it is also almost free. But there are 3 things left standing, and that's what today's meeting is about, because these things are never for sale. And hear me out on this one, okay? Just trust me a little bit for a couple of minutes, and I'll take you through inside the myriad of my brain. Your judgment, your identity, and the room that you're in, that is not free. And that's only half the picture. So the whole thing, I'm going to try and make this really simple so that nobody on this call can forget it. You got to think about it like this. 0 multiplied by 100 or even 1,000 or 1,000,000 is what? Is how much? 0. Okay. Daniel got it. Okay. Anything multiplied by 100 is 0. You can hire the best marketers alive, the most expensive funnel team, the most powerful AI on the planet. If who you actually are was never extracted first, every one of them is multiplying by 0. Louder noise, bigger spend, lots of ad money down the drain, podcasts that are just all fluff, bigger spend, same nothing. And that's why most marketers have failed you. That's why the introducer networks have failed you. That's why all of these AI tools have distracted and disappointed you. Not because the help doesn't work, but because they had nothing of you to work with in the first place. And the gap is actually clearer and simpler than you think about it, right? So take yourself up out of this, let's go to 100,000 feet and start there, because the gap that is there that explains why your most important work isn't shipped yet, right, is kind of very visible, because I sat in one chair that sees it, right? So I've walked in your shoes. I've sat on the other side of the table for decades. I've built multi-billion-dollar fund businesses the hard way, from zero, no track record, no Ivy League, no daddy's golf buddies, multiple businesses built the hard way. I also blew up plenty of stuff, by the way, and failed along the way. So don't think I'm here lecturing because I'm like better, okay? But in that process, in that success, I've also switched to the other seat where I've allocated to hundreds of thousands of investments, heard over, way over 10,000 pitches. I've raised 5 billion for my own businesses and advised many multiples of that for others, right? And I don't bring that into like name drop or impress you, but like for me, sometimes I'm impressed, like as this kid who grew up in a, without a dad in a remote desert country in Africa and somehow found my way across the world, lived on 5 continents, traveled to 140 different countries, and somehow I'm alive, despite my best efforts. But I managed to survive and prosper despite all of these shortcomings and these insecurities, by the way, which still sit on my shoulders today, right? I'm still the same guy. But I say it essentially because I've been around the block. I've really worked with thousands of entrepreneurs, and over and over and over, I've seen some of the most capable humans on the planet struggle with exactly the same thing that's kept you and me from shipping our own rockets. And these skills that make the work world class are not the same skills that actually get the work seen. And this is the gap. This is really the gap, guys, because the work that you're doing, the work that we're doing in the middle of the night, that takes solitude, it takes depth, it takes decades of focus, but it also takes like an indifference to other people's opinions. You build systems over relationships, and the nerve to hold a position whilst the whole world disagrees with you and ignores you, that takes balls, cast iron, Elon Musk style balls, okay? And that's really the temperament that I opened up, why I opened up with that picture of Elon, right? Because he's a very imperfect guy. And the more billionaires you know, the more you realize how flawed they are, yet how simple their solution has become, right? And the guy who sits in his own wreckage to try and see what it is that failed so that he can start again on Tuesday, okay, that has my attention. But getting your work seen and funded takes the opposite of that character that I just described. It takes connection. It takes saying it clearly, reading the person across the table, getting comfortable in rooms full of strangers, and this one word that I hate, rejection, self-doubt. You're essentially building relationships over systems, right? So do you see the conflict? Because the person that builds and the person that promotes are almost like two different people. And every trait that made you world-class at the work itself works against you at getting it seen and getting it funded. And the independence that built the thing in the first place almost makes you allergic to selling it, right? Because the depth that gave you the edge makes the relationship work that you need to do feel like a death tax. You'd rather die and cut yourself with razor blades, okay? Now, there are some people that are really, really good at this promoting, selling thing, and that's their calling. But generally, I find that the entrepreneurs who are really building things struggle with this gap, okay? Because the comfort with solitude that mastery requires makes the machinery of attention getting feel like this deadly cocktail of, prostitution and torture. It's really a painful task. At best, if you're a person that can switch, you need multiple hats. And that's the gap, because nobody talks about it, because talking about it generally means admitting the truth. Well, the market doesn't actually reward the best work. Do you remember a guy called Tesla, right? I mean, yeah, he's nowhere. There are so many stories of real entrepreneurs who built the thing and then somebody else came in and took it and cleaned up and got paid for it, right? The market does not reward the best work. It rewards the best shown work. The deepest expertise in the room very often goes home without the check. And I've seen this so often, right? And yet then there's some dipshit with 1 million followers on TikTok, right, who adds no value to the human race, walks away with $1 billion. Like you saw that guy that does those mimes that, all these simple things. Guy sold his brand, his image for $1 billion. I mean, mind-blowing. And that same gap essentially decides who gets the client, who gets the partner, who gets the audience, not just the capital. And my verdict here today is you're not behind because you're less. You're behind because you were actually built for the work itself, and nobody ever helped you build the rest of that. So if you just hold that thought and trust me a little bit longer, go with me another 10 minutes, right? Cut yourself a little slack in here because we're about to fix that. And I want to run you through like 3 big secrets that really came absolutely clear to me. We just came back from the Mediterranean, and we're on a terrific vessel, a super yacht with people who can buy me 100 times over. But talking to them and watching the football and hearing their questions and so on really gets you out of the trees and really gets you focusing on what's important. And the first one that I find is the self-help trap, because we all read books, we all buy courses, right? And I've heard this thing in almost every room I've ever taught, right? Because everyone I know says, oh, I've done the courses, I've paid for the coaches, the masterminds. I've done Tony Robbins, Platinum Partners, one-on-one coaching, these high-ticket programs, the events with all the celebrity speakers. Some of them were actually really, really good. I mean, amazing, but they end. And I got to that point where I'm just like done buying fancy motivation, cool buzzwords, clever frameworks, and ending up in the same spot 6 months later. And I got really fed up of seeing my clients basically in the same boat. I would teach them absolutely everything. They would have these breakthroughs. They would go, oh, thank you. Now I know exactly how to do this. And then 6 months later, I bump into them. They're literally in the same place, but maybe slightly worse, because now they have yet again failed at something else that they're beating themselves up, okay? And we all know it. We've bought the programs. We've sat in the rooms. You did the work. The frameworks make sense. You went home with the binder and the head full of momentum, and then boom, 3 weeks later, you can't find the fire. 6 weeks later, you can't remember the frameworks. 3 months later, that playbook is in a drawer next to last year's playbook from a different guru, right? And your life looks exactly like it did before you walked into that room, minus 60 grand. And somewhere, something inside you died a little more. I'm like that. I'm really there. I'm done. And the industry basically calls what they sell you is self-help. I think it's called shelf help because that's where it lives. It sits on a shelf. And it's not that you failed the program, but the model actually fails you on schedule. Programs end, that's why they fail. The transformation never broke at the knowledge. It broke the day the program essentially ended and you walked out with a binder and no one to call. So I literally rebuilt my entire own business, recreated my entire ecosystems, and I want to show you quickly what I've done. Let me switch to my favorite trusty little iPad, and this is how I've completely redesigned and re-engineered my business, because my business used to be all about wealth. I'm already drawing this badly. Let me start again. this is the focus. And if I was previously known as the fund whisperer, and I can teach people how to raise billions of dollars. And that was my entire focus. Built that into a family office, invested in everybody else's trinkets and all of this. But that was my primary expertise. But I realized that you cannot build this in isolation, sorry, because when you build a business like that, it really needs an identity behind it to attract it, a story to carry it. And the number one thing that it needs to overlap with is health. And it was really a breakthrough for me, because I have always borrowed from my health. I've borrowed from my sleep. I've borrowed from my exercise. And I just did not have the energy that I did when I was 25, and I could just guts it out, right? And that's really where I started adding Laura Louise's protocols, okay? Because she has rebuilt, I mean, it's just unbelievable. I'll introduce you to her later. She's just finishing another meeting. And her ability to conjure up energy, vitality, cognitive performance, longevity was so important that I really said this is an absolutely critical element on it, because you cannot go and build your magnum opus on a body that quits on you when you're 60, okay? Because most people, when you look at most people, at age 60, that's where they're building the thing that changes the game for them, right? And the third overlap, let me try and write this nicely, is mindset. This is the number one game changer, because all of your training, your brain, your evolution, all of this is absolutely critical to build both your health and your wealth. And there's massive overlaps in both of those, right? And this is where you get massive amount of leverage by learning, by deploying the skills, the tactics, finding what worked, finding what didn't work, and taking responsibility both for your health and your wealth. And this was kind of the evolution of where we went to next, right? Where we really started helping people, building people. And in our masterminds, I mean, the masterminds that I was making fun of earlier, right? $48,000 a year type masterminds, people would just absolutely focus on all of this, until I really brought the next component to it. And this is where it all starts making sense. So we call that your Magnum Nation. Some people call it their tribe, some people call it their community, call it whatever you like. But this is your tribe, your people, the people you do it for, the people you do it with, the people you learn from, the people you grow with. And hear me on this one, without the right people, life is completely and utterly pointless. And if you don't actually address this at the same time as the other three categories, all of your cards will fall down. And this is the really big part where I need you to trust me, is hear me out on this, because I have built so many businesses in the wealth component, and they have failed. I don't know, they're not here anymore. So that to me is a failure, because I built it for the wrong people, with the wrong people, wrong clients. Yes, that's easy to fix, but the wrong partners. And I was always like running on like 2 out of 4 of these burners. And if you don't run all 4 of these at the same time, you're going to borrow from one, you're going to overcompensate to the next, and the house of cards is going to fall. And what's really interesting, there are a lot of, it's a little beyond the scope of today, but the added benefits of when you're building all 4 of them at the same time, you become so much more attractive. You become so much more interesting. You become the magnet. Because, I mean, you've known those people that are so obsessed about their business. They're bloody boring. They really are. You don't want to be around them. But somebody who's, I'm going to use a good phrase here, which I can only use when Laura Louise is not in the room. Someone who's got their shit together, okay? Those are attractive people. Those are interesting people. They're like magnets. You want to spend time with them. There is a balance in the force. You see what I mean? But we can get deeper into that another time. I really want to try and stay on time on it. And the part that I want to show you really in secret number 2 is that your identity is extracted, not created. Okay? And you know, as Yoda once so masterfully said, there is no try, only do. And that is the thing about authenticity. There is no try, there is only do. You cannot try to be authentic. You just have to be, warts and all. But the problem is we've forgotten how to do that in this kind of influencer world, right? And just like a bottle cannot read its own label, it's especially true of accomplished people. Because 30 years of competence, decades of try and fail and rinse and repeat, actually buries the authentic story under the mission statement and these marketing-led bullshit credentials. That's why your bio reads like every other bio. That's why your deck sounds like a deck with an I in it. It's not a lack of substance. It's an excess of proximity. You're too close to see what you actually are. Because your identity is not something you can create. It's something you extract. And the whole fake it till you make it crowd, remember, I tried that. I started there as a young guy. I had nothing but fake it till you make it, right? Has really been giving you the wrong advice for 30 years because they want you to hide the broken parts and present this polished version. It's like when you go to a meeting with Morgan Stanley guys. They're all wearing exactly the same thing. They say the same thing. They have the same buzzwords. I'm like, these are like little robot clones, right? I will not remember any of you by tomorrow because that's what society teaches us, okay? They want you to hide these broken parts and just keep presenting this polished version. And all of these AI prompts that you're signing up for are even worse because they lull you into this false sense of security and progress because progress in the wrong direction is not progress, right? So that's why I love the Japanese concept, right? So I've actually been to Japan, I mean, literally close to 500 times. And I've learned a thing or two about their culture. And there is this entire obsession there called kintsugi. Let me see if I can conjure an image up really quickly. There we go. I can do this 1 second. I have skills, man. There we go. That's it. See that bowl behind me? That's a kintsugi bowl. So when a bowl, a cup, a plate, or a vase breaks, they repair it with a special gold thread. And the repaired bowl is literally worth 10,000 times more than the unbroken one because those cracks are the proof it survived. So they call this kintsugi. And your scar tissue is not what you hide to do the work. It's actually the material that the work is made of. So what comes next isn't the leftovers of what came before. It's the actual work itself. Because the years behind you, right? These things that cracked you in exactly the right places to do it. Sometimes it's your childhood. Sometimes it's a business. Sometimes it's a massive failure somewhere else. You know what I mean? All of these things, that very thing where you failed, that scar tissue that you've earned is the very thing that's going to yield you 1000x. The more you hide it, the harder you will struggle. And I really, it came back to me on this magnificent super yacht in the Mediterranean that we were on for the last 3 weeks. And it really showed up there again because the guys that literally could buy me 1,000 times over, right? What did they focus on? Every question was about my scar tissue, was about my failure, of how I broke this and how did I overcome and what did I learn out of it. None of them were interested in my bio. They were all fascinated by my scar tissue. And it really showed me, I'm like, you know, Anrik, you're right. You've just got to tell people more about this because you've got to be really careful of who you let speak into your microphone. You got to think, let's go back to Elon for a little bit. When he first pitched SpaceX, like his hero, Neil Armstrong, publicly trashed the idea. So the man who walked on the moon told the man who wanted to put humans on Mars that he was an idiot. And Elon, actually at the time, by his own admission, was visibly shaken, but he kept going. And today, there are thousands and thousands of newly minted millionaires, welders, engineers walking around SpaceX because one man, after his idol said no, decided, I'm going to keep going anyway. So you have your own Armstrong. I have my own Armstrong. You know, the mentor who said it wouldn't work, the spouse, the friends, the family who said you were too old, too young, too inexperienced, right? And remember, when you have a business idea, it's like a little shoot coming out of the ground. It's very, very vulnerable at that time. It needs a lot of moisture. It needs a lot of sunshine. It needs all of these things, right, to help you make that thing grow. But right in the beginning, it's extremely vulnerable, and it's got your scar tissue on the back of it. It's very vulnerable. So be really careful who you let speak into your microphone, right? Because there are heroes that you hang on who say, like, all right, that idea is science fiction, right? And somehow you believe these people more than you believe the work inside you. So I have a sentence on my iPad, which my screen shaver, which says, why is it that we believe our doubts, yet doubt our beliefs? And that daily reminder for me is really, really important, because that's why this thing that you're shipping, this thing is still inside you and not listed on some stock exchange or proudly featured on a billboard. Okay. So that's what made me change direction, because I then started building instruments for the extraction and the extrapolation of this identity. We call it Ignis. I'll gladly show it to you. It's up and running, and it's got amazing results. Let me switch to it real quickly. I just got to switch to a different computer screen. There we go. It literally runs at the center of our entire vault. It's right up there. I'll move my head out the way. Right up there. Ignis. That is absolutely the centerpiece of everything that we do, because, as I said, your identity has to be extracted. You can't make it up. And people have spent so long hiding it and covering it up and bullshitting their way around it. And we've basically figured out how to take 7 core zones to ignite your fire. And then each of those core zones go 3 to 5 layers deep in one conversation, right? And we used to do this manually in person, and it was painful because it took 2 weeks. Now we do it with AI, and the results are 100 times better, and it's done in 45 minutes, right? Because from that, we can then produce 10 deliverables in your own voice, right? And when I ran it on myself, it was mind-blowing. One 45-minute conversation extracted 17,181 words. Every one mine. No one could have written that sitting at a desk staring at a blank page. And when you look at the gap between where you are and the people that you admire, you use the gap to beat yourself up. I do it. And that gap has a name. And the only thing that actually closes that is the opposite. And it's called the gain. It's a really worthy reminder. Just when you're thinking about this little session tomorrow, write down gap and gain. Because if you look backwards at how far you've already come, including those handicaps, including those mistakes, including all of those things, not just look forward at how far you haven't come, you will actually see the progress, right? And the mother of all motivation is progress. And if you are focused on that progress, right, and you'll see it literally right here, everything in our vault is driven on progress, next step, next step, next step, next step, next step. Because as entrepreneurs, we have these big ideas, and then we fail, and then we get distracted. And then 6 months later, we're in the same thing, you know what I mean? And we literally build all of these. Let me move my head out the way. And you'll see, for some of you guys who've been in this in the early days, there is a massive evolution in all of this, right? Because all of these tools literally lead to one place, and that's this thing. Yes, I know. It's the second Japanese issue of the day, but you've all seen this before. This is the intersection of your ikigai, your reason for being. And I've modified it a little bit to make it useful. But the reason that you got up this morning, whether you can name it or not, is irrelevant. But it's about what you love and what you're good at and what the world needs and what you can be paid for. And the reason why I work on this on a daily basis is because we all fall into our careers. Actually, let's call it by its real name. We trip into our careers. Okay? It's like something happened. You answered an advert, you clicked on something, your parents thought you should study this, and now here you are 25 years later in some career that, oh God, if you had to design that by itself, nobody would do that voluntarily, right? We fall into our careers, we fall into our lives. And yet there is this marvelous mess that we make by accident, okay? By circumstance and by other people. Very few of us get to this age and go, ooh, is this actually what I want? Well, let's design it and engineer it from scratch. Let's stop having other people dictate who we are and what our destiny should be. So when you look at the center of that, let me get my head out the way again, okay? That in the middle of it is actually your magnum opus. It sits there and it's unbuilt. Some people that come to me have started working on it, but they've been working on it for 6 years. And we can get it shipped in 6 months, right? Because, and by the way, it doesn't mean you can only have one of those in your life, right? And people call it the thing, the project, the business, the someday. Give it a real name. It's your magnum opus. And I think it's high time to ship that, because I want to bring you into this mindset that gets it shipped. Because so many people think at this point, they now think, okay, so even if I extract my identity and even if I find the right room, the world is drowning in AI noise, influencers. The market has failed me. The introducers failed me. I don't know how to do that. I'm not good at that. I'm not a marketing guy, blah, blah, blah. Nobody answers anything cold anymore, blah, blah, blah. And you can just come up with one excuse after the next, and you'll be right on all of it. And you know why you'll be right. Because 0 times 100, yep, you guessed it, is still 0. Because that's the secret that people don't teach you. You have 2 businesses and you've only built one. Business A is the thing that lights you up. The firm, the fund, the invention, the craft you trained your whole life for. And I see that. People come to me on LinkedIn, 30, 40 real DMs a day saying, help me build this thing. I've got, I'm building yachts, I'm building ships, I'm building an asset management business, I'm building a wealth management business, I'm building an algae food manufacturing business, I'm building a consulting business. And everything is about business A. The firm, the fund, the invention, the craft you trained your whole life for. And you think that that's your magnum opus. But business B is the business that feeds it. The attention, the capital, the clients, the funding, the partners, the fuel. You're building A with everything you got, but you never built business B at all. And the order to build it is the whole secret. Identity first. Hear me on this one. How's my time? Okay, I'm good. Identity first. That's Ignis. This story comes second. That's your origin, your method, your edge, written down in a structure that compounds. Some of you have been in some of our events. We teach this. I think we teach this better than anyone I know. But it has to be built on your identity. Because once your story is on the page in your voice, it can start working for you whilst you're sleeping. And then number 3, systems. The funnels, the engines, the AI, the marketers, the virtual assistants, the whatever you want, the CAP intro guys, you name it, however you want to leverage yourself. That comes next, because that's the deployment layer, essentially, that puts the right person in front of you in your voice whilst you're not actually in the chair. That's the order. Identity first, story, then systems. Get the order right and you stop multiplying by 0. get the order right, and every multiplier on earth can finally compound the real you. Because there are people on their knees praying for a person like you to walk into their life. Now they can find you. And you might say, okay, yeah, how do you know? Well, because I've literally spent 20 years building it the other way around, backwards, the hard way. Systems before story. My German, Vorsprung durch Technik. My brain works like a systems engineer. Story before identity. It was fluffy. It was all sorts of stuff. It worked, but it worked 1% of the time. And luckily for me, I threw 1,000 times more energy than anyone else I knew at it, which is why it actually worked. But it was really the hard way, because I have worked harder than anybody I know, making less than I should have. And the day that the order finally clicked for me, that same work that had been grinding started compounding, which means it took me like 20 years to learn it. You can take this home in the next 20 minutes. And yeah, sure, I have spent the first half of my career launching funds, basically, over 100 of them, billions of them, and some of them very esoteric. And if you can convince, somebody to part with, hundreds of millions of dollars for some weird virtual thing sitting in the Cayman Islands, trust me, I can build real companies too, right? And because halfway through that, I kind of switched seats then. I built multi-manager funds where I raised my own capital and at the other time deployed it to other specialists. So I had to sit on both sides of the table at once. Laura Louise also, by the way, she has 35 years of doing exactly that. And in that process, you get to see what works and what doesn't from a chair that almost nobody sits in. I mean, Laura Louise literally spent her entire career inside these businesses, right? Launching funds from the inside, taking traders and really developing them into superstar hedge fund managers and turning them into icons of this industry. And then also running the Partners Fund of Managed Accounts. So between us, I think the number is sitting at about 5 billion of our own capital raised and hundreds of times unadvised, right? And in that process, over 10,000 investment decisions that we've due diligenced, businesses on 5 continents, the same answer from every angle. The capital was always there. The capital will always be there. The clients are always there. The partners are always there. It was never about the deck. It was never about the ratios. It was never about the stuff, about your design. It was always about the people. Capital will always find its way to the deepest relationships and the imperfect people with compelling, authentic stories. And that's the only thing in this industry that's ever been harder to find is you. That's how you got to think about it. You've got to make it easy for people to find you. So do a really quick audit with me, guys, real quick. It'll take you 2 minutes, okay? I'm going to give you 3 questions. Just answer them honestly. Nobody's going to read this, okay? Score yourself 0 to 10 on each of those, okay? Just 3 very quick questions. Because whatever number you write down is the honest measurement of the gap between business A and business B. The number isn't a verdict on you and your personality, all that. It's just a diagnostic of what comes back, okay? So, question 1. Can someone who's never met you find your 1-paragraph identity in your own voice on a page you control today? Not your bio, not your LinkedIn headline, your identity, your weaponized scar tissue. Let me repeat that question, because it's an identity question. Can someone who's never met you find your 1-paragraph identity in your voice on a page you control today? Not your bio, not your LinkedIn headline, your actual identity, your weaponized scar tissue. Give yourself a score of 0 to 10 on that question. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to put it in the chat or anything like that. Just answer the question. Question 2. Story. Can a stranger find your origin story, your epiphany bridge, your method into your vision, written down in your voice in a structure that actually compounds and connects to your vision? Can they find somewhere your origin with your epiphany that then goes into your vision? Can they find it somewhere? Is it on the internet? Give yourself a score of 0 to 10. Remember, a corporate profile, a corporate website, the usual yada, 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 blah, 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 that we all as entrepreneurs post on pages, think they're great. That doesn't cover that. The thing is, when you're sitting in a restaurant and you're sitting next to a billionaire who's looking for things to invest in, he's going to ask you that question. It's going to sound different. It's going to say, so, Harry, tell me what you do. That's not what he's asking. He's asking this question too. What's your story? Okay? Give yourself a score of 0 to 10. And then my last question, question 3, is a systems question. Do you right now have a scalable engine that puts the right person in front of you every week without you chasing? Something that runs 24/7 without you. Like, be honest on that. No one's going to check your work on this. This is where you can, cheat. Just answer that question, 0 to 10. So now, obviously, if you scored full points on that, that would give you 30 points. And if you scored under 20, you have not built business B. That is not a failure. That is just a diagnosis, and it's very fixable. So let's quickly, let me see. Laura Louise is going to join us in a few minutes. And I want to quickly go through the big domino that I showed you so far, so you can see back up at 100,000 feet where we are. This trinket economy is collapsing. Information is already free, and now execution is almost free. But 0 times 100 is still 0, okay? And that's why you are here and not on your private yacht at the Monaco Grand Prix, because it isn't shipped yet. You're so focused on the gap. The skills that make your work world-class are not the same skills that get your work seen and funded. When you just realize that, you're already 1,000 points ahead, because the deepest expertise in the room always loses to the polished machine and the moron on TikTok who just sold his business for $1 billion, okay? Making mime videos. I mean, like, seriously, how is that even fair? Yet you've got this thing that is unshipped, it is massively valuable, and nobody knows about it. Then into secret 1, programs end. 99% of all self-help equals shelf-help, but operating systems don't. And that's why the bookshelf of your life grows and your life doesn't. And secret number 2 is that identity is actually masterfully extracted, not created. The actual cracks are the material. So remember this really nice diagram behind you. Those scars, they need to be weaponized. And that's what people are interested in. That's why your magnum opus is still inside you. Don't let it die there. And just before I bring Laura Louise on, I just want to cover secret number 3 quickly. What I just spoke about, you have 2 businesses. You only built 1. Business B is the essential identity, story, systems. In that order, identity, story, systems. You cannot scale bullshit. Okay? I have tried, remember. I have really tried that. Now, you can take all of that and run with it alone. Right now, absolutely, you can. I hope I added value to you, because you've just invested valuable time with me. And I really hope that I've repaid you 100 times. But I want to show you the gears and the machine that we built. And it's not a sales pitch, because there is nothing to buy. But maybe you will learn something out of this whole thing. Because when I switch back to where we've gone, let me switch back in here. Laura Louise, come and join us. Feel free, by the way.
Hey there.
Everybody, this is Laura Louise.
Hi, guys.
She's my better half, my genetic superior, and my boss in multiple jurisdictions. So when we look at how we've built this vault out right behind us, the MVP, right, the Magnum Vault Pass, this is the destination, is to build your Magnum opus. 4 gears essentially converging on it: wealth, health, mindset, and the Magnum Nation. And I think that is the most important component of it, is the Magnum Nation. And that's why we keep doing these events.
Well,
That's,
how many
we
people
love it.
actually build their business and they realize they're not lit up by the people they're serving, or, they're frustrated by them. They're not enjoying it. I think when you work with what we call Magnum Nation, that's when, you have the fulfillment, because you're serving an audience that are your like-minded people. And you're surrounding yourself with partners that are, accretive to everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important, and so many people overlook that. I mean, certainly I did in my early career, utilizing, different partners for what I thought were, things that were going to accelerate my growth. But when you're not a right fit, it actually inhibits your growth. So, I think that's very important. But I can't stress enough the building business A, which is, the thing that got you into business, the thing that you love so much, and the thing that drives you. But knowing, and I can't tell you how many clients I have that know that what they have is better than other people who are doing so much exponentially better than they are. And it's because they haven't found the way to build the business B. And that that's your voice. That's your identity. That's your, your place in your industry, in your community. And if you don't have that place, or have a way to reach the people that you really solve a problem for, or that need your services desperately, there's no way to rise, even if you are seriously the very best in the industry.
Yeah, we covered that pretty extensively.
Yeah.
Because the way that we found is we just kept teaching this to people, teaching them, and then they weren't doing it. So we're like, you know what, enough, stop. We will give you all the tools to help you build it, right? And this is essentially what we've really built, right? And I'll give you a very, very quick show and tell of it. And it's just a very light tour on the whole thing, because we essentially are helping people build their magnum opus, which is the center core. Can you point it out up there?
Yeah.
Wrong way. It's hard to do this on screen, right? Right up there. And around it, we have built 8 super tools, because each one of them is a specific gear that gets the work and the genius and the brilliance out of you and into the world. I will not walk you through all of them today. The Vault does that, right? But what matters is they're absolutely real. They're built. They hand you the results. They extract your most valuable scars, visions, dreams, and put them into an actual invulnerable state.
And around the gears, you'll see there's 4 corners, right? Those are the tools, the programs, the library, the events. Basically, every program we have ever built, ever sold, programs that people paid $8,000 to $12,000 just to be in the room
for a single one of them,
a piece to sit in, that now lives as chapters in the MVP. So you're not buying a course anymore. You're inheriting our entire body of work. And, the truth is, these gears don't spin on their own. They need a conductor, something that knows which one of you should be turning up this week and what needs to be focused on. And honestly, that is Oro. Yeah. Oro means gold in Italian. That is our trained voice. And you'll notice it's a golden retriever, which is, very appealing, because at 3 o'clock in the morning, when you're totally frustrated, to get to speak to our Oro and really have our voice, our body of work at your disposal to go, hey, I'm stuck. I need this at this time, and I need to know what to do next. And Oro's going to show up. And by the way, Oro now knows your Ignis protocol. He knows your interview.
Yeah.
He knows your voice. He knows your lexicon. He knows your business. He knows what drives you. He knows what's important to you. He knows what your purpose is. He knows what your vision is.
Yeah.
I mean, he is amazing. Even when I use him and we created him, I'm blown away because you know what? Sometimes you're tired at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. or, you just woke up and you need to be on your game instantly. And he can direct you into a way that puts you on your feet in the right direction every single day of the year. So I love Oro and I love what he does. He's the advisor who shows up for real questions. And, he knows everything about you. So we don't have to navigate through a library. You follow a prescription that's based on everything that you have created.
Yeah, it's some of our most brilliant work because most people build AI and it just doesn't connect to your identity. It hasn't been trained. This is really amazing. And then the next step is really part of the graphic I can't really show because it's not a feature. It's the live room. You'll see up all the way up in the top corner. We don't do one-on-one consulting anymore, except for very few rare cases, because everything we do is in the vault, right? This is a live room, 3 dedicated sessions with Laura Louise and me, 36 of those a year. That's basically where our private consulting went when we stopped selling it. It used to be, I don't know, what did we charge for it?
$2,750 for a 90-minute session.
And it's all in the vault, basically. So we have redesigned our engine to make sure that people get their ship, right? So those are the 8 gears, plus the 4 corners, 1 conductor in there, 1 room, all of it pulling you in one direction, which is your magnum opus, because the identity at the center of it is yours.
Yeah. And, I think that you don't realize what this is until you're in it. But we did this manually with our private client for years. And doing this manually is, it's a big lift. It's a big lift for us, but it's like you having to delve deep as opposed to the way we've constructed the 4 major interviews, which now get to the heart of who you are. And it goes deep. I mean, when I did mine, these are emotional. There's so many people who have abandoned the foundation of who you really are. And it's this place where you start to meet yourself again. Even for me, who teaches this stuff, who does this stuff, who has constructed my, my stories, my origin story, my vision story, my epiphany bridge. I learned so much about myself. And the aha moments and the kind of emotional moments, and most of our clients are men. I would say 99% of our clients are men. And them saying basically that, this was one of the most in-depth, personal experiences they've ever had. So It's a game changer.
I want to give you one more little gift here today because everyone tells you to never use the C word, okay? But I'm going to use it big time today. And I figured out a long time ago that I actually need 3 C's in my life, maybe 4. And they are in this order: create, construct, communicate. In that order. And the 4th one is coffee, but you already know that. And I'm running light on coffee today. But create is the thinking. And follow me through this little map here because it's actually really powerful. Because the create portion, that's the thinking, that's the ideas, the actual genius, right? And then as Laura Louise will tell you, I have to be constructing, I have to be building something all the time. And that is where you build something tangible and useful from it so that others can use it. And then the last C is communicate, because that is putting it out there so that it doesn't die of loneliness on a shelf or a computer somewhere.
And that's the destruction of entrepreneurs, the dying on a vine because you have put in the work, you have done your zone of genius, you have created everything that you want, you have constructed something for people to buy, but people don't know about it. So there's no communication. And I can't tell you how many people die at that stage. I mean, it's pervasive across entrepreneurs across the world.
But here's the kicker. We actually get paid in reverse because nobody pays you to create. Nobody pays you to construct. You get paid for communication. Okay. And now my personal calendar runs around 60% creating, 30% constructing, 10% communicating. And that last part pays 100% of the bills.
Absolutely.
And it really should be impossible because it works for one reason.
Yeah, the communication is automated.
Yep.
In our voices, scaled 100x, 24/7. It's working for us because our identity were extracted first. And that's the critical part. Once you create this, you can create it so it's automated. Your business should be working for you 24/7,
Yeah.
or else you're just exchanging time for money. And you're never going to be able to pay with your worth if you're exchanging time for money.
That's what the AI is actually for.
Yeah.
Multiplying the one C that pays you whilst you live in the other two that you love. Create and construct. That's business A. Communicate is actually business B. That's the one that pays the bills. That's the one you never built, right?
And unfortunately, that's the one most people outsource. So you lose the fabric of your, of your identity. You lose the fabric of the mission of the company. I can't tell you how often people just have no idea, about the founder, about the trajectory, about the journey. And that's where all the juice is. You've never watched a movie where you don't find out about the journey and the struggle and what people went through to give you what they're giving you, because nothing great comes easily. Nothing comes out of thin air. It's all blood, sweat, and tears. If you're creating a great product, you put in the time and the effort. It doesn't happen effortlessly. But when people understand where you've come from, what you've done, that moment of decision, that moment of change, that pivot, and eventually that vision, they want to be part of it. They want to go there with you. And it changes everything. And most people outsource this to a marketer who's giving his spiel and showing your deck and hoping for the best. And it just will never land. Certainly, if you have a good result, you are very lucky. But to have extraordinary result is impossible.
Yeah. So basically, people come to us and they go, okay, all right, I'm keen. How do I sign up? All that kind of stuff. And it doesn't work like that because we said no to more courses, and we really meant it, right?
We meant it. This is not a course or a program. We find them exhausting, frankly, because we're just starting from scratch all the time. Programs are the model that failed you. They end.
Yeah,
this doesn't.
Yeah, so that's really how we rebuilt it. And you're looking at it absolutely live, and you can't just click on there and sign up and join it, because the component of the community, of the Magnum Nation, of the tribe that we're building is super important, right? Because we interview everybody that comes into our rooms, right? Because the quality of the people are massively, I think, the most important aspect in it, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to be with your right-minded people, and you need to be with people who want to, as I say it all the time, bust out of the box. If you're not looking to build a magnum opus, if you're not looking to build, what's bottled inside you, or the great idea or purpose that you've always held and you haven't gotten there yet, and you just want to kind of go along and have a couple of added tips and tricks, this is just probably not for you. This is for the people who are the outliers. They know they're meant for more. They know they have a purpose. They know they haven't gotten there, and they don't want to die with it on their heart.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really simple. And they know that they are worth, making 10 times what they're making right now. Those are the people who light up the room, who are exciting, who are willing to go the distance. And frankly, it's a very hard, job to find your right fit room, right fit, people that you can catch and pitch with. So often as founders and as entrepreneurs, we have people work for us and they're going to agree with us. They are not the engine that got you where you are. So they're certainly not the engine that are going to take you where you want to go. You need to have that inspiration, that motivation, that contribution, that excitement, that creative energy, that fire in your belly that drives you to the next level. And, that is the thing that changes everything. You know, when we hang out with mediocrity, we're not going to rise to our best potential. And unfortunately, we live in a world of mediocrity. This is not the mediocrity room. This is the room for your extraordinary and untapped magnum opus.
Yeah, the question where we normally go, because I've already had 3 messages here saying, okay, how do I get into this? I can't really go into pricing and all that kind of stuff. This is not a sales pitch, but I want you to think about if all that we did was extract the identity that 30 years of your competence has buried, the one that you cannot read from inside your own bottle, right? Think about what that would be worth. And if all we did was put you in a room 3 times a month where you never have to explain yourself, what would that be worth, right? And if it was built to if your magnum opus ships instead of dying inside you, what is that worth, right? So that's where we started this whole thing. And we said to people, look, come up with a number. What is that worth to you, right? Because, we don't really do one-on-one consulting anymore. There are a few exceptions. Generally, when we go in and we train a team, and it's a big lift where the whole business needs to be turned around, not just the entrepreneur. But it starts at $30,000 per month plus a percentage of the upside, okay? And that's a real door, and a handful of people will walk through it. And then when we first built the vault, that rate is $25,000 a year, and that's where we're heading with this whole thing. You know what I mean? But we decided when we launched this that we're going to do a founders like 50, where we're going to let the first 50 people in come at an absolute fraction of it, but they need to be interviewed. They need to be the right fit. You see what I mean? So in the various chat links, you will see a link if you want to have a conversation. There's a book a call session. Super important. Jump on a call. You can pick me. You can pick Laura Louise. Have a call with us to see if we can help you shift this thing, because I think this is super, super important, right?
And I think, the great thing is it's a 12-month, and what we're doing, at least right now for the founding 50, is we're going to lock in the price annually. So this is something that we continue to grow and build. Since we first launched it just over a month ago, we have added so many components, and it's probably worth a little walkthrough. I mean, it's so mind-blowing.
Well, we're so proud of it. We really want to show you.
But I've never seen anything like it. And we've been in the best rooms in the world for over 30 years. And there's not a person that I consider like really one of the great mentors of my life that I haven't been in the room with. And we're very blessed to have that, because they were absolutely pivotal in creating and unleashing what's inside of us. So that's been great. But I look at what everyone's doing, and this is definitely a step above. So, entry is by conversation. It's 30 minutes with us, no script, no pressure, no chasing you afterwards. That's sort of our whole thing. We call it an application because that's what it is. We're choosing 50 people we want to spend the next decade with.
That's that's basically the idea, right? And when you look at these things, you should be choosing just as hard, right? So it's kind of a two-way application, which is why we do it on a phone call, because if the fit is absolutely real, then the invitation is natural. And if it isn't a good fit, then we'll tell you straight and point you somewhere better. Because the thing that annoys me in this whole industry is that like every stage in this industry ends with a countdown clock and this is expiring and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, cut that crap out. I mean, this thing ends up with an invitation, and I want people to think about, what do you really want?
Absolutely.
Why do you want it, and what is in the way of that, right? Before you book a call with us, because if we can help you remove that obstacle, all we have to do is, would you want to do this with us? And it's so straightforward and so authentic, right?
So I think, there's a couple of things we find people are thinking. So I just want to say them out loud. One is, you said no more programs and now you're selling me something. Correct. And I meant it. I meant that we said no more programs. This is not a program. It doesn't end. It's the beginning. And, two, some people have been in our rooms before and have done our ramp up course, our Reap Rewards course, or our MBA course.
Which I loved, by the way. They were great,
and I love them too. Those were events and they ended. The vault holds every one of them.
It's all in here, by the way.
Plus the continuation that they never had. So we will always be going back. We will always have moments where we're teaching things and expanding things. There's never a moment that we don't expand on something that we taught in the past to bring it up to date, to add what we know, to give leverage to you. And as you get to know us better, frankly, you can do more, you can handle more because you know our body of work. So number 3, and this is massive, you won't use it all. You don't navigate a library. You follow a prescription, and you may use it all over time, but you don't kind of go in there and drink from a fire hose. Ignis first, that's your interview. And then Aura will sequence your path where you actually are and how you get to where you need to go. And if you have a hesitation that I didn't name, bring it to the conversation. The phrase we use in this house is tell me more. We want the real version of you. We want to know where your real struggle is. We want to unearth it, get it out in the open, let it breathe, and let's take it to the next level and eradicate it. That's really our mission.
So that is why I put that, that link in the chat for you, because that is really a little kind of tell me more about it. And you can from there, book a call with us and have a real conversation. We welcome those. We've got scheduled time 3 times a week for those type of conversations, because we want you to really step into this thing and be in the right room. Take the order, figure out the format of this identity, story, systems. Ship the whole thing. But I really do hope that you are not the same person who logged in here an hour ago, because I think that thing that you've been struggling with has a name now, and the mathematics. Stop multiplying by 0.
I thought of one more thing that people say to me all the time, and I just want to go back to it because I know you addressed it a little bit. But I have practiced Magnum Health for the better part of 4.5 decades, out of desperation more than anything else. And I will tell you, so many of my clients come and say, oh my gosh, I'm too old. I don't have the energy. How do you have the vitality? I build this into it. And it's not like, come and I'm going to fix you and put you on a diet, make you jog. It's really about energy, vitality, and cognition. Anybody who is got a big mission, anyone who wants to, work in their zone of genius and build their magnum opus, they need energy and they need vitality, because energy is the food for the creative process. If you lack your energy, you are going to die on a vine in there. And I know when my energy gets low, boo, my protocols come out. I am on it. We all work long hours. Anrik and I will sometimes work a 20-hour day, and we've got to get up and deliver the next day.
I've got more energy than I had 20 years ago.
You definitely do. I mean, and Anrik has been a little bit of my guinea pig, because he was actually very reluctant to do some of these protocols. But I got to tell you, when I started out at Argonaut, a Tiger Cub, I remember I had the entire trading desk on some of my protocols, and I still run into guys today who say, hey, what was that we were doing? Well, I mean, I have 1,000-folded that since then. And really, people who are struggling or don't have the energy, we're going to get there.
Wait 1 second. I think Zoom just crashed and then restarted. It's so interesting, fascinating. Zoom just crashed and then restarted miraculously. Wow, crazy.
That is crazy. Well, anyway, we don't want you to let your magnum opus die of loneliness. We don't want it to die because you don't have the energy or vitality. We don't want it to die because you don't have the right people to catch and pitch with, or that you're not serving the right client. The Magnum Vault Pass basically directs your energy into all those things to really solve those problems and let you manifest, what is your destiny. So
No, this was really nice. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Please grab that link from the chat. I can add it back in there if you like, to grab it and book a call with us. Let me just get it in there quickly if I find
yeah,
it
we'd
right
love
now.
to talk to you and,
Yeah.
and help to get your game on and your magnum opus built. And as always, we're wishing you life and business on your terms. And that's the most important thing.
Absolutely wonderful. All right. Thank you for joining me, Loris.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful to see all of you guys. Sorry we went over time, but that is occupational hazard around here. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Roadcaster video series. Roadcaster video series. Roadcaster video series. Roadcaster video series. Yeah, we use interactive brokers, but it's kind of a stroppy platform. Yeah, we use it. Yeah, we use it.